BowmanDigitalMedia.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. This is the start of season 2, baby. I'm excited. Coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I'm excited to have my guest today, Andrew Ettinger. He is from, well, he's not from, he just moved to Costa Rica. His family is excited to be there. I'm sure we're going to get into all of that in great detail as we discuss the life and marketing efforts of Andrew and all the different things. He's got a company. It's called The Best Postcards, and we'll be talking about that in a lot of detail a little bit later. But Andrew, before we do anything else, I just want to say welcome to the show, and I love your haircut, brother.
Yeah, when I figured out a long time ago that it wasn't working, instead of that slide over look, I just said, let's just kill it.
Come on, dude.
But thank you so much for having me on. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And, I love the opportunity to get to speak to, high profile, like well-respected people like yourself. And, I love it. Thank you.
Well-respected. You haven't got to know me yet. You'll change your
mind. I've done a little research.
But no, I appreciate that. I'm the same thing. So I'm not very tall. That's the one thing about this whole video virtual world is, a lot of people think I'm taller than I am. They meet me in real life and they're like, man, I didn't realize you're so short. I'm only 5'8", and actually I'm not even 5'8" anymore. I've shrunk a little bit. So as my hairline got taller, my forehead got bigger. I felt like everybody was staring at the top of my head. So I was like, yeah, let's just get rid of that. And, it's funny. I don't know what you.
So I'm 5, and people couldn't tell that I was losing hair except for me, so because nobody could see above. But
so we'd make an odd pair. You're 6'5".
Yeah, the tree in the bush.
You're almost like a foot taller than me. That's crazy. Anyway, so. Yeah, David just asked. I'm 5'8" with boots on. That's what I tell people, with boots. But I do wear a hat a lot, so I got that going for me too. But anyways, before we get too far into this, I want to kind of explore, because I like for my audience to get to know my guest, right? So you have a financial background, is that right?
I do.
Yeah, let's start with that. So after college, we don't need to talk about college. It's fine. We're going to talk about the world of marketing. But I want to explore this because it's interesting. You have an interesting background, and I want to dig into it so that people understand, you, and then when we talk about your business, they'll understand how it all fits together. And why I personally find it so interesting, which we'll talk about. He's a giant. I'm cracking up in these comments. David's like, "You're a giant." I thought,
Yeah.
what we would be? We would be like twins. You'd be Schwarzenegger, and I'd be DeVito.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's all right. That's all right. We could make it work. The hat
We're from
adds
the
an inch.
same generation,
That
so
is
we
why
know the
I
movie.
wear it. Like if I got the boots, I got an extra inch, and then the hat, and I'm almost 6 feet at that point, right? Anyways, all right. Enough of the goofy stuff. So you have a financial background. Um, how did you get started in the financial world? Just walk us through, like from your first.
So it seems like it'd be like a difficult thing, but really, I came out of college and I had zero clue what I was going to do. College is a complete social experience for me, which I think is better than any education that you can get from the college. Learning how to interact. But I came out and my a good friend of mine from college was over at USB or UBS or whatever it was at the time. And I was living in Great Neck, New York, streets of Great Neck. And he said, listen, I have all these guys who just left Lehman Brothers and they're going to open up a location in Great Neck at Prudential Securities. And I didn't really know, obviously I knew about stocks and bonds and everything, but, I knew about Lehman, and this is well before any of the crisis with Lehman. And so I said, sure, let me give it a shot. And, it was it was like a schlock house brought into a great firm. So that's how I really got into um, financial services. I just did everything opposite of what I was told to do. And, um, I networked and, I never made cold calls, and it was all friends and family. And then I got recruited over to Morgan Stanley once I had a big book of business. And then, having Morgan Stanley, just picking up the phone back in those days and saying, hey, I'm from Morgan Stanley and I can get you an IPO. And that was my end.
Yeah. Well,
So,
you just mentioned two very powerful companies, right? Lehman Brothers and Morgan Stanley. And so you've not only got financial experience, you've got some heavy, you know, financial experience. Obviously, those are two companies that people would take seriously. So I just asked in the comments section, by the way, guys, where did you go to college? I went to two schools a lot of people are not familiar with, but they're both large schools. I went to San Jose State University, SJSU, on the West Coast, and then I finished my degree over in Liberty on the West Coast or on the East Coast. However, I finished online. I didn't actually attend in Lynchburg, Virginia. So if you want to chime in and represent your college, feel free to do that. Andrew, you want to tell everybody where you went to school?
I went to the University of Maryland,
University of Maryland. You're a Terrapin. Love it.
Winter.
So I was born in Baltimore. Not that
You
anybody,
were.
yeah, not that anybody cares, but that is where I'm from. Anyways, originally, I didn't grow up there. That's where I was born. Okay, so anybody who knows, I'm trying to sensitively like get us to the next step here. Anybody who knows anything about the world of finance knows that it could be a bumpy ride, right? You watch those stocks, you watch the markets, and they almost always go up. In fact, historically, they go up, but it's not a straight line. It can do this, and your life had that too, right? You had ups and downs. So if you want to, I don't know an easy way to do this, so I'm just gonna have you do it. If you want to kind of rip the band-aid off, and you were doing well, you were succeeding. I'm not gonna give away the I don't want to give away the story here, but you hit some bumps, and then things came tumbling down. And I have some of that in my background too. So if you want to kind of like get into that, and then maybe I'll share with you a little bit about my backstory too after you're done. But you were flying high, climbing. You went from Lehman Brothers over to Morgan Stanley, and everything was going well. You didn't have to cold call. You could just pick people, talk to people, and anyways, things were going well. What happened that kind of changed the tide for you? It kind of started the downfall.
Well, first of all, I grew up with money, and then, when that changed dramatically while I was in, a couple of years before college, going into college. So I didn't have the backstop, that I thought I was going to have my entire life. So everything kind of changed there. Um, I'm always great at, networking is everything to me. Like, just like we were talking about earlier, I'm not a cold caller. I want to present, what we're about. And, if somebody's interested, then let's have a talk. But I got, at a young age, I was 24 years old, and, Morgan Stanley offered me, I think, $800,000 to switch over from Prudential to Morgan Stanley, which was also getting me from moving from Great Neck to New York City. Bad idea.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm in New York City, and everybody wanted to know the broker. And there's the the brokerage world, as I'm sure it is now. It had its it was an evil business, like we were awarded IPOs that were going to go up $150 to give the clients if we sold C shares of their proprietary mutual funds, which they couldn't switch out. Now, nobody really talks about that, and how that happened, but it's very easy to walk in and meet somebody and say, listen, you bring over $500,000. We're a high net worth um, uh, growth, organization, and I'll give you a company that's going to make you $20,000 on the first day of the opening. So it was really easy at that point to bring people in. The problem is that I believe my own hype. Like stocks. I didn't know the market from any time from when I came in when it was bad. It was straight up, and I had $6 or $7 million of my own, and the problem with networking and friends and referrals and family.
I just want to hit the pause button. I want everybody to hear what you just said, so they understand the context of where you're going with this. 6 or 7 million in the bank is a lot of money. Most of us have never made. I don't know that I've made $6 million in my whole career if you add it all up, honestly. So that's a lot of rug there. Okay, sorry. Just keep going. I just want to make sure people heard that because that's a lot. That's a
Yeah, no, and it's real. And the thing is that I had a lot of family money and a lot of friends, and everything I was touching was turning to gold. And it's not because I was a genius. It's called the squawk box, and I'm sure you've heard the term on like CNBC, but we really had a box, and there was like an analyst who would say, buy this, we have a buy rating on this. And then after the stock's down 20 points, they say, well, we just changed it to a sell rating, and so, but I had a couple good years where everything we touched turned to gold. It was the internet boom, kind of like what's going on with cryptocurrency. Nobody could figure out yet which were going to be the companies that were going to be the Amazons and the Apples, and I thought I was a genius. And you know I, I wouldn't say that I wasn't popular growing up, but family situations. And listen, we all have them. We all have our stories, and we all have the things that we are the biggest things in the world to us. But my story is no more relevant or no more important than anyone else's. What happened to me, might not be dramatic to someone else, but I never had a lot of confidence, and I didn't date. I didn't go out. Didn't have a lot of friends, and this changed. All of a sudden, I was meeting women and going to bars, and I was doing drugs, and I got introduced to drugs, and at first it was once a month, and it was a functioning drug addict, and then it became a non-functioning drug addict. Like
Let me ask you this: what drugs are we talking about? Are we talking about party drugs like cocaine, or are we talking about weed?
I mean, cocaine was the number one. Was absolutely the number one drug. I had a problem like when work ended at like 5 o'clock. Like I said, I wasn't the most social person in the fact that I don't really love going to bars or anything like that. But to kill the time from 5 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, it's like I didn't know what to do with myself. So, I was, and then especially when times got bad, like it was overnight for me. Like it was like
So
one day. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. Okay, so drugs is an interesting thing. I think you and I are about the same age. Okay, we grew up in this era of just say no to drugs. And
33?
am I 33? No, I'm older.
No, I'm 49. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So, right, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger, on the TV, with Ronald Reagan as president, the fitness guy, and all that stuff, and we're doing these national fitness tests, and you got Gruff the crime dog saying say no to drugs. So for me, that was something I never did because they did a good job with the marketing, which we're going to come full around the marketing in just a few minutes, everybody. But um, did you do drugs in high school, or was this something that you started in
No,
college?
I was a late bloomer. I was
Yeah,
a late
so
bloomer.
that's kind of what I wanna get to. So
Yeah,
you're in New York City, and at that point,
right.
have you done drugs before you got to New York City?
No, I mean like I done coke twice, or I smoked weed, maybe every once in a while, but drugs were definitely not a part of my life. I didn't care much about it. Really, what changed was, all of a sudden I went from being I don't want to say nobody because I always had like my own group, but like I became a dick, like I thought I was a genius.
No,
I
I got
thought I was smarter than everyone else. I thought like, only I could do this. And, I had girls who wouldn't wouldn't like look at me before because I was always that nice guy. I'm the guy who sends a box of chocolate to a girl after the first date and then she never calls. And then I call and I'm like, hey, did you get my message? And then, the next day, did you get my message? And which is guaranteed. And I'm watching my brother, who is dating, rock star models, and he's just treating women like terrible. And it just wasn't in me. It wasn't who I was. So all of a sudden, I'm in this position. I have no idea, and it's like at the point, it felt great, but it was,
I got you. I asked this in the comments for folks. Were you popular growing up? You already have said no, you weren't, and neither was I. And I kind of blew up on social media. So I get what you're saying, right? Like it's a different place to be when people are seeking you out and are excited to talk to you. And I hate to meet people in person almost because I tell people like, look, you built me up as this thing in your mind, and I'm just a normal dude. So I'm almost assuredly going to disappoint you when you when you meet the real Ira. I try to be as real as possible. In fact, David said you rarely hear people talk this openly, but this is the only way I do it. I don't know any other way. Like it's real
Yeah, I
life.
mean, listen, my father was a powerful person. He was the first person to co-op real estate in New York City, and with that came cheating on my mother. And I mean, like everyday cheating, and I won't say that it was physical abuse, but it was definitely mental abuse and maybe stuff that I didn't realize at the time. But I had no confidence. I can totally relate to this whole body shaming thing. Like, I was losing my hair at the age of 20, you know what I'm saying? So at an early age, and because I'm 6'5", 240, 250, I carry my weight well. But to me, I was a guy who couldn't get a date in high school, really couldn't get a date in college, you know what I'm saying? And started to think, those things start creeping in your head. Am I ever going to get
Yeah,
to be with a woman? Am I ever going to find someone to love me? Am I ever going to find anyone to,
yeah.
And
I
all of
got
a sudden you're not like you're beating yourself up.
I totally got you. So you're married now. Obviously, you're married with kids in Costa Rica. So we know that you did eventually find somebody. But did you find that somebody during the rise in New York, and we haven't even really talked about the crash yet. I mean, we've talked about what starts the crash here, but we haven't talked about the crash. But where in the journey did you meet her, your wife?
End of the game.
Okay.
And
So
everything's over. Like I've switched careers, I moved.
all right.
There was no light at the end of the tunnel. Blah blah blah
I'm
blah
gonna
blah
come
blah.
back. Yeah,
Out of
I'm
the
gonna
door.
come back to that then. So let's
All
talk
right.
about the crash itself. You're in New York City. You feel you've got a God complex. You're feeling invincible. You got $6 to $7 million in the bank. Everything you touch turns to gold, Midas touch. And then something happens. What happens is you got addicted to drugs, right? You said it already. You were functioning drug addict, and then you turned it. It happens. Look, sin will normally take you further than you want to go, and it'll take you a lot farther and a lot longer to get out of it than you ever thought. And that's where you were at. So
And it takes away the inhibitions that
yeah,
you always had. It's all of a
100%.
sudden the world opens up and you're like, wow. And I look back and I say to myself now, like, Jesus, the only difference between me and someone in jail is that they got caught.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
No,
For some
I've
of the
been
things that I just did, like,
I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, I watched drugs and prostitution and gambling destroy people, including my own family. Yeah, I was homeless, which we're about to talk about your experience, but I was homeless as a child too. So I've seen my parents take the money they had money for rent and gamble that, and then what do? You get your ass evicted is what happens, right? So you go from having a place to live to not having a place to live. I've had every type of homeless experience you can have. The couch surfing type, living in extended stay motels, living in a vehicle in a trailer, and sleeping on the street. I've done all of them. It's no fun. Now I wasn't the adult, so that's where our stories are a little bit different. There, I was a child in my teens, but anyways,
I mean, it's hard to say out loud, but I would have prostitutes come over, but not to actually doing it because when you're doing cocaine, you can't do anything anyway. But it was more of a sharing. It was more of a like something that was like like someone you could talk to, and like it was for a totally different purpose. And so thousands of dollars.
yeah, yeah,
Like nights in a week. It wasn't like not thousands of dollars total. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, but uh, it took me places I never thought that I'd be, and the people I started hanging around with, like were
riding
it
your
just
coattails.
wasn't who I was.
Yeah, right. Those people, those clinger-ons are there for the party. As soon as the money's gone, they're gone too. That's unfortunately
But I didn't know the money was gone. When the money was gone, when it happened so quickly that the money was gone, it was like 6 months after the fact. I'm still living the same lifestyle.
yeah.
I'm borrowing money from my friends, from my family. Like I'm thinking it's all coming back. It's all going to turn around. Blah blah blah.
In
Never
your mind,
did.
in your mind,
Yeah, in my mind.
you're still that God in your mind,
Like I'm
right?
taking a $30 taxi when my friends are taking, who are rich, are taking $1.75 subways. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, can I borrow $40 to go to go home? And they're like, why don't you just take the subway? And I'm like, the subway? Like,
Yeah,
why would I take a subway? Like,
right,
so I,
right. Hey, I had somebody busting my chops yesterday because I fly coach on a commercial airline, and they're like, "Why aren't you renting a plane?" I'm like, "Who the hell do you think I am, man? I drive a
yeah,
Kia." For all of you out there who are curious, I buy no label brand stuff all the time. I grew up extremely poor, so there's a little bit of difference between you and I, right? I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have money, so it actually taught me a lot about value and how to survive and actually how to be good with my money. But somebody
well, I
was
mean,
like,
this,
they're like,
this
"You're
taught me later in life. You got the early
yeah,
lesson.
that's all right."
I mean, I'm wearing the same shirt, the same shorts, the same sweatpants that I was 6, 7 years ago. I have absolutely zero materialistic, wants or needs besides taking care of my queen, my wife,
Yeah.
who's, my love, and, who saved me and gave me purpose, and
I
just
learned I learned this expression, and it's made a huge difference for me because I haven't always been this way. I've been married 21 years, okay, but about 11 of the years I learned this expression about 11 years ago. Happy wife, happy life.
happy life. Yep.
Yeah, and so I was very self-centered. You and I have a lot of this. Like I said, we have a lot in common. Being broke, being homeless, which we'll get to in just a second in more detail your story. But that God complex, that feeling that you're smarter than everybody. I was born with an intellect, right? So I've felt that way a long time, and that arrogance is really destructive. It's self-destructive. So I had a coming to Jesus moment about 11 years ago, and my whole life changed. It was like different guy. If you met me 11 years ago or further back, you probably would have thought I was an arrogant prick, and frankly, I probably was. Take the word probably out. That was, anyways. But life has a way of humbling us, and that's really what had happened to you. You were humbled. Okay, so I don't want to dwell too much on it because I want to change it and make this more positive. It's a positive show. But let's just talk about this. You hit rock bottom, you lose everything, right? So
Right.
you had 6 or 7 million in the bank, now you have nothing. You're home,
Zero.
everything's
Negative. I owe my dad 100 grand. I owe my brother $200,000. I owe my friends. They're nothing. I have absolutely nothing. And I filed for bankruptcy, but it wipes out $7,000 worth of credit card debt. But I owe real people real money that doesn't go away.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, that's
So
where.
there's a little debate here about how many kids I have. No, David, I don't have 9, but I do have a hashtag strive for 9. I don't really use it anymore because I'm actually over that. 8 is enough with my wife now. But we have 8 kids, 7 of which are with my wife. And
Congratulations.
I had one child before I got married, but actually, that's an interesting story. I didn't have the child before I got married. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Sorry, 4 months before. But they were very close. So a lot of times when people say, "Well, how old's your oldest child?" 21. How long have you been married? 21. A lot of people assume that it was a shotgun wedding or something like that. But I didn't. I didn't marry the lady that had my first child. So, anyways, interesting story. But it's not about me. It's about you. So we're back on that.
It's about us.
When you hit that rock bottom, what helped you get out? Was it just lack of funds, but what helped you get you off the coke and back? Like, what happened? Tell us that point, that bounce point where you start to go back up. That's what I'm most curious about of everything that we're going to talk about today. This is the thing that I'm most interested in is what was it for you that got you to change directions?
Joe Robbie,
Joe Robbie. Tell me,
Joseph Robbie. Yep.
okay, so it's a,
He's a CFO of my company right now. My best friend from childhood, from when I was 11 years old. And he gave me the tough love. And I one day just got up and I moved to Connecticut. I had a friend there who had a chain of pizza restaurants, and they were doing like $50,000 a week, like 5 restaurants, and all they were doing were handing out flyers. They had like 10 people on motorcycles, and they're handing out flyers and just canvassing every day. That's all they would do. And then I guess he got this idea, brilliant guy, not someone who like I ended up living on his couch for 7 years, but he figured, like, when he figured it out, he's like, I'm taking this menu and I'm paying people to go door to door, and it's actually costing me 50, 60 cents to
yeah,
put out each menu.
yeah,
I can
flyer.
put out I can mail it out, for a quarter or 20 cents. And all these local businesses were like, hey man, can you put our piece out too?
Yeah,
So really a genius, in his own right. And he was able to take this conceptual idea of a shared mailer and put it into play. And I was his gun, so he would just point and shoot. And I'm living on his couch and I'm making $7 an hour, $9 an hour, and I'm going nowhere. I can't pay anybody back. I'm bouncing 40, 30, 40 checks a week. And 7, 8 years. I'm still there. And then 2010, my mom passes, and which
That's
is
another
you
potential
know,
valley. Yeah. So
which is
you hit the bottom. You hit the bottom. You're in New York City. You move
right.
to Connecticut, but that's a long plateau. 7 years. You're on a couch for 7 years.
Yeah, there's no light.
Yeah.
There's no light. I'm not making any money. I'm literally making $45,000 a year, and I'm paying everybody back with it. I'm eating I'm living on his couch, and I'm eating out of his refrigerator, and zero life, and didn't talk, didn't have time for friends, didn't have time for there's you couldn't bring the girl back if you wanted to, but
Right. There's no privacy. So now at the timeline here, we're at 2010. Is that where we are?
yeah, about 2010 is when my mom passed away,
Okay.
and she left me just enough money for me to open up some avenues for me, like where I could get my own place. It wasn't a fancy place, or it was like on top of someone else's house, but like the second floor. But it's like a lot of guilt, man. I mean, watching your mother, who just watches you blowing your entire life, and then still never gets to see you get successful, and then she calls you up one day and she says, Andrew, I'm not feeling well. My back hurts. And my first thing is like, ugh, my mom's complaining again. Oh my God, like,
Now
and I
you're
went back, and
living
I
on
didn't leave there
expensive
for 4 months.
Yeah.
I didn't leave there for 4 months, and I watched her. I didn't put her in hospice. I took, we tried to treat her, and I took care of her for 4 months. I didn't leave her bedside, and I did things that no child would ever think that they would want to have to do,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
I was a CNA
but
right after.
that was
As a
what's
C
that?
as a CNA, I was a CNA for 6 months when I graduated high school because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to college or whatever. So I'm like, just hit the pause button. But I know what you're talking about. When you have to bathe somebody, or when you have to change their bedpan, or clean up their puke, or change their, I hate to say it, but their diapers, or colostomy bags, or I don't know exactly what kind of condition your mom was in, but all kinds of stuff. It takes all the mystery out. It's not. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and like I felt like such a loser in life. Like my mom saw me as a drug addict, or actually she didn't. She had rose-colored glasses on, like only a mother can have for a child. And I guess, I had one of those watershed moments, 7 years later, but I lived with guilt, that like unbearable guilt, like suicidal guilt. Um,
But I'm
there
glad you
wasn't,
didn't. I'm glad you didn't do that though,
well, I'm glad too,
because that experience that you're talking about.
we wouldn't be here. And
We just have to. Just have to summarize this again. I just want people to understand this is a lot of weight that you're carrying, because you went from growing up with money, silver spoon type upbringing. You rose your professional career. You rose, worked for Lehman Brothers and Morgan Stanley, and you had $6 or $7 million in the bank, flying high, feeling like you're indestructible, invincible, the smartest man on the planet. To then being in somebody's you're homeless, you're living on somebody's couch, making $7 to $9 an hour for 7 years, so that you could pay back people. Your mom gets sick. You're now taking care of her for 4 months. I'm telling you, that is a lot for. I mean, you're 6'5", you're a big dude, right? But your shoulders, bro, they must be like made of steel, because I think a lot of people would have hit. We just talked about suicide. A lot of people would have probably elected to hit that eject button. Like, what's the point? You didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. We haven't got to.
there was no light.
Yeah. So let's fast forward this a little bit, because we're running out of time, and I do want to get into your business. So what was it that sparked the light for you? Right? Like, now I see so Joe Robbie helps you like hit a plateau and ride, so you're not free falling.
Well, he gets me out of my bad situation, and he's the one guy that everybody hopes for as a best friend, that you never have to turn around to see if they have your back, whether you're right or whether you're wrong. And he was a constant. And when I was in the city, I lived on his couch and Anthony's couch for a couple of years before I actually made the move to Connecticut. But they helped me force the decision. Like New York to me was just evil, was all around me. You know what I'm saying? I had to just get out. But around 2014 and 2014, my partner and I, because I had become partners, because now our company is doing $3 million in sales and I'm doing 2.5 million of it. So Vinny, who was my partner, who I became a 25% partner in the company, whose house I was living on his couch, we had a come to Jesus moment, kind of like, are we going to do this or are we not going to do this? And we just went all out, and we turned a company that was doing $2 million into a company that was doing 10, $11 million within 2 years. And, it was all of a sudden, I was going and I was making $200,000 a year. Then I was making 300, then $500,000 a year. And
you're starting to climb back up.
Right, I'm starting to climb back up. And then in 2018, my partner and I had different visions, and it didn't work out, well. And I like I said, I don't want to say anything bad about him because he was there for me for 7 years,
Let me ask you a question nobody else is going to ask you, but I'm just that nosy that I have to. So you go from making $7 to $9 an hour. You're living on this couch for 7 years. You go through the ordeal with your mom. Now you start to climb back up. You're at $200,000 a year, which frankly is more than most people make, right? So you're already back up in the upper echelon of society at 200,000. Now you're 300,000. Now you're 500,000. And you know as well as I do, there's this thing called besetting sins. And cocaine, whether you want to, you probably know. I mean, I don't have to tell you this isn't news for you, but that's yours, brother, right? So
yeah, I think about it every time.
Where in that journey did you really get tempted? Because you're climbing back up 200, 300, 500,000. You can afford it again. You can afford cocaine. So where in that journey did you first have to go, I'm going to have to be really careful not to slip back into this thing and make a conscious decision? That's not where I'm going again.
I think it was probably 2011, and I was getting to the age, maybe, I was 39 years old, and it was a position where I'm saying, I'm not going to get married, and like, I'm like a hopeless romantic, and that's Joe is too, and that's what we had a lot in common, and, I said, I'm not going to get married, and I'm not going to have kids, and it's too late because, so I was going on every Match.com, J.com, whatever, Cupid, anything you could. And I was going on 5 dates a week, and literally they were just 1 hour dates, and there were never second dates. And there was one girl from, I was just telling the story the other day, but there's one girl from Staten Island, and she kept coming to the top of the list and then kept going to the bottom because I'm in Connecticut, she's in Staten Island. No way I'm ever gonna that's ever gonna work out.
Yeah.
And that was like a revelation. Like, what's gonna be my real purpose in life? Because I really, my materialistically making more money, starting to make money wasn't changing me at all. Like, I had returned to starting to become the person that I thought I was going to be in life, like, like morally and ethically. And I went and I saw this girl, and I met her once, and we hit it off well, but it just wasn't a connection. And we didn't talk for like 2 or 3 months, and then for 6 months we talked on the phone every day. And I fell in love with her over the phone.
Okay.
And when she came to visit me, that was it. That was it. She came to visit me, and but I was like by no means was I rich or wealthy, or it was my first year of making money. I still had owed some money. Like, she didn't get me, like, when I was in, she she taught me everything. I mean, she taught me how to be a man. She taught me, like how to be accountable, that there's no such thing in life, as excuses, We make decisions every day, good and bad ones. And, like you got to just be accountable for and live with them, like they don't all have to be the right decisions. They just have to be decisions that you stick with. And, she gave me the family. She gave me, like the family I never thought that I could have because I thought it'd take 3 years to date somebody. And next thing you know, next year I'm married and, I meet her. I met her. We have 2 kids and
So
my partner and I had
you got married in what year?
2012.
Okay, so it's 2000. It's 2012. We actually have that in common too. I married my wife 11 months after I met her. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
She would
cool.
have had it earlier, but, like,
A lot of people in our wedding, the day of our wedding, were making jokes. I think, but I think they were jokes. They were openly
yeah, I
betting.
mean,
How long are these two going to stay together? 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I don't think anybody had us at 21 and counting, but anyways, kind
not,
of fun.
but you got to get through that. Everybody's, I think, has that one point where like it's either 5 years or 7 years where you're either going to make it or you're not going to make it. And if you get through that, if you can get through that, then you're good. If you give up, then but
I'm, I'm a
she
little bit I'm a little bit stubborn and obnoxious and things. So my wife and I have had a few of those moments. Honestly, there was a day I went to sleep uh, at night thinking that when I woke up that next day we would be getting divorced. That's how far our marriage has fallen at times. But for whatever reason, we refused to quit. So
I'm
I think
scared shitless of my wife. I mean,
you're six
scared.
five,
I
brother.
mean,
How tall is your
and
wife?
like she's 5'9",
All right, I'm just saying.
and she's Middle Eastern. And she's from Uzbekistan, but I'm not scared shitless of her because like she's mean or anything like that. But she's the only person in this world who can tell me what to do, put me in my place, and I will know not to open my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
um,
All right.
but she became spiritual because she got a end up with a disease which 1 out of every 10 women actually have but don't know about. It's called endometriosis,
Mhm.
and it affects women in the worst way. My one of my big things is that I'm going to do charity about it, because what it does is women are in pain like they're in labor 24/7, and there's no cure for it. There's no surgery for it. There's no, she had got 6 surgeries, and women are really like the in the workplace by dating by they're totally just more what's done to them is mortified. Like men don't want to be with them because it's there's an intimacy kind of thing, and the 99% divorce ratio. And like we got through that to where she realized that like I didn't give a shit about any of that, man. That woman made me the man I am today. And like everything that I went through, all the crap that I went through, that 10 years where I didn't think I could see the light of the tunnel, the drugs I did, the bad people, all the bad things, she made. I mean, I wouldn't give it any of it up because of what I have today. And it's not a financial about what I have today. It's like I have my little bubble, like I don't care what's going on in politics. I don't care what's going on with the vaccine and the anti-vaccine. I don't care what's going on with BLM and white
Yeah.
privilege. I don't care about any of that. I have my bubble. And as long as nothing affects my bubble, I'm good. Like,
Let's do it. Let's do a pivot here because we're getting short on time, and I want to get into your marketing stuff. So everything that we've talked about up to now, we're 45 minutes. This is my longest intro of a guest ever. But everything that we've talked about, there isn't a sniff of marketing. There isn't a sniff of printing anywhere in this whole conversation.
okay,
So
so
hang on. So
I,
you grew up with money,
yeah,
made a buttload of money. I mean, stuff that people would aspire to in their whole career. You made it very quickly in your 20s. Then you had a crash that would have frankly sent most people to the suicide. channel. I mean, seriously, that's mind-boggling in itself. But then you came out of it. You started to make money and climb success again. You've got a wife now and kids. But what I'm curious is, you're now the owner. I understand the partnership where you can be brought in and someone says, okay, well, I bring the print background and that stuff, but you own a print business.
Yeah.
What is it? Because look, I've worked in the print business for over 20 years. I started in the print business as my first real career, and I worked it every which way you can. I sold the equipment, I sold direct mail, I sold signage, so offset printing, digital printing, large format, wide printing, grand printing. I mean, I've sold all of it. So I personally don't see outsiders coming in to this direct mail print world
No,
space.
I mean,
It's so rare. So what is it about it that drew you in? That said, you know what, this is where I want to. Because now you've talked about your besetting sins. You've talked about the evil of New York and that influence, and you talked about your desire to be moral and the compass and all the things that you aspire to be growing up. And I believe your marriage is honestly that catalyst. Okay, so you're doing amazing things. But let's talk about this. What is it about printing specifically
so
that drew you in?
when I first came down, it was my, in order to get those people to share in with the shared cost of the shared mailer, I was walking around with a piece of paper and saying, this is going to be our map and this is what our magazine is going to look like. But I got to see 500 different types of businesses 500 times over. I got to see the great business owners and the crappy businesses, and and seeing how they succeed, and the bad business owners and the great businesses, and seeing them fail. And I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
But
my screen was
I
having an
I love that I understood it, and I understood their pain, and I understood what their pain points were, and I knew how to solve it. I just needed people to listen and trust in what I was saying. And that's why, I eventually got more out of the shared, and I opened up the best postcards, direct mail, because I wanted to have a real impact on people. But it's 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 the most gratifying thing in the world to have made it now and to help people who are just listening to their friends or just going by the seat of their pants, because nobody really understands the pain it is to be an entrepreneur. You wake up every day worried that you're going to lose it all. Like, I
yeah.
still have the anxiety and stress, and we've made such big difference. And it's not me, man. I have I know that the labor shortage and all that, it's killing outside influences to my business. But for my business, I have zero turnover. I have 34 people who I would lay in front of a train tracks for, and they work their butts off, and there's no competition, and it's profit sharing, and it's just knowing that I'm responsible for their kids and for their families, and that they're busting their chops for me, 24/7. We have no hours. We're not a 9 to 5 group, and we've made such a difference in so many businesses. And we took a little bit of a different approach. We took a data and analytical approach. Where we're really delving into their past clients and using them to find similar looking clients through 3D heat mapping. And one of my partners, Lou, created all these systems through Alteryx. He's just a genius. And Joe, as a CFO, like, I put people in place. Like, the one thing I know is, put yourself, to anyone out there, if you're the smartest person in the room, get the fuck out of the room. You know what I'm saying? Because you're in the wrong room. You want to be in a room where you're the dumbest person in the room, and the people around you've surrounded yourself with people who are smarter than you. And that's what I did. And the love and the faith that I get from the people who work with us, the cult, and who work with me, the culture, the lack of hierarchy, the faith that we all have in each other, that if one does well, everybody does well. we have something so special going on, and I
Let's talk.
think people feel it when we talk to them about it, because we're not selling anything. Everything's incoming, and we're having discussions about their capacities and we turn down clients and we tell them, like, you're not ready for this, or you should be doing this. We don't. It's not money driven. It's just, you know,
What is it
it.
that you're doing specifically, and how are you helping your clients? Because you have a lot of clients. I think I read on there 700 plus clients, right? So
Yeah.
you have a
So,
ton. That's a
like,
lot of clients for a print business. So what is it that you do, and how are you helping your clients be
well,
successful?
I mean, the first thing I do is there's no sales pitch, and there's no up charges, and it's all in and whatever. But the first is basically an hour conversation, delving into their business, finding out about, what their capacity is, how many techs they have, how many, what they did in revenue, what their ad spend is, finding out, where their pain points are, what they need help with, what I should be selling them, making sure that what we do offer is not just a sale, it's something that will benefit their business, listening to them, being their friend. And that's a big part of it. But, I we the splash and spray days are over, and the days of people telling me that I only got 14 calls through call tracking and I get all my leads on the web. Like, we decided to put an end to that. If you were my client and you were calling me up, I would say, Ira, send me your last 2 years of customers. And I'll take your last 2 years of customers, no charge, no, after this whole phone call. And I plot it out on a 3D heat map, and then we'd set up a go-to meeting, and I'd say, okay, Ira, here are all your clients over the last 2 years. Because if they haven't used you in 2 years, they're not your customer anymore.
Right, right.
And I would say, this is where they're coming from. This is where they're not coming from. Here's the appended data. These are their incomes. These are their home values. This is the year, the age of their home. So let's
Demographics.
find people who are lookalikes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Now this is marketing, folks. A lot of people don't understand that this is actual marketing. What he's talking about doing here is he's taking the demographic, what I want to say, identity of the current customers and going, okay,
the
now,
avatar.
yeah, and so now you've got an avatar, you've got an ideal customer who you actually serve, and let's find more of them, and then we're going to send direct mail.
Right. And the thing is what I figured out early is that, we're our model is really brand, acquire, engage, retain. But it's like our whole generation skipped that whole retention thing. We just went right to the bottom of the sales funnel and went right to pay per click, where you're skipping the steps. You're skipping the Planet Fitness, the triggering, the Terminex, the Renewal by Andersons, you don't call it Vaseline, you don't call it petroleum jelly, you call it Vaseline. You're skipping the steps of becoming a brand. You're at the bottom of the level, bottom of the tier. And and I learned every day. Lou Abaika was one of my first clients. He said, Andrew, 75% of your revenue comes from your existing clients. Like, people don't understand that it costs 5 times more to acquire a new client than it does to retain a client. And when you retain a client, not only do they trust you, but they listen to you and they spend more money and they don't question you, and you're not out bidding against people. And it resonated so much that, like that means that 75% of your budget should go towards your existing clients,
It
and
is
that's
amazing
what,
how many people ignore that. It is amazing to me how many people ignore that. Let's just land on that for a second. 75% of your revenue coming in. Now, this obviously will vary depending on what you do and where you do it, but a lot of your revenue comes in from repeat business. That's what he's saying. And if you
75%.
a lot of you, if you look at your marketing budgets, are spending the opposite of what you should be. You're focusing all your effort on trying to bring in new people instead of keeping the ones that you have happy. That's just another way of saying
Listen, I have a client who came to me at 32,000 over the last 2 years. He showed me a list of 32,000 leads that he bought off Evangelist, the Home Advisor, uh, pay per click. And out of those 32,000 people, there were 1,900 clients that he had. And then, Lou Abaika, who's become a mentor, and Tom Casey, I look at them and I look at their last 2-year customer list, and there's 12,000, 13,000 people, and they never drop off. It's like 2 years
Yeah.
later when I look, like, and they never drop off. They don't lose clients. So every client they get is an acquisition, because nobody's ever going to come in and buy your business for the revenue that you did. They want to know that you own your business, and these are the successful people. These are the people who are working on the highest margins. These are the people who are sending their people out into finite areas. You can do more business in 25,000 homes than you can in the entire state. This is how you make money. And they do things like, if my roof has to be changed, and my whole neighborhood was built in 1996, chances are if my roof is being changed, every roof in my neighborhood's being changed. So they send out radius mailers, 150 homes, 75 to the left, 75 to the right. And it's amazing the things that I learned. And I learned, we have a marketing call once a month, where I invite all my clients, but there are certain clients that, I guess act like ambassadors, and really help everyone understand certain things, and in ways that I can't even explain. But um, we're looking at business in such a different way than paper calls, or like, and call tracking. Like at the end of 3 months, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you for all your sales that you've done in the last 3 months, and I'm going to take all those sales, I'm going to match them back to see whether they got mail, when they got mail, what type of mail they got, how much your total spend was, how much your total revenue was. you know I don't need to get accolades for acquiring the lead. I just need to show them that, hey,
It's
look at
working.
these areas they got mail, compare them to the areas that didn't get mail. I'm showing you a 60% lift of the people. I know the digital guy wants to come in and take credit, but you look at these guys and you learn that their radio and their television commercials, they don't even have URLs or phone numbers. They're just saying Griffin, Habaika. Lou's got this, like a Habaika song. It's, like, and Tom's at Griffin, has, it's just Griffin Services, Griffin Services, Griffin Services, because at the end of the day, we're sending everybody to the website, and people don't understand that, because agencies and CMOs, they're lame duck managers, or lame duck, general managers of teams. Like, they have to produce right now, results right now. They don't have time to build the brand, because if they don't bring in results today, so they're taking credit for everything that everyone's doing, like the television, the radio, the billboards, because we spend all this money on reviews, and we spend all this money on reputation management. And do you really think that people are going to get a direct mail piece and bypass reputation management, and bypass whether somebody's 2.5 stars? Before I spend 20 grand with somebody, I'm going to their website, and if it's not mobile friendly, and they've got a 3-star review, I'm not using them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
It all comes together.
um,
Yeah.
it's all layers. It's all
Yeah.
layers that you don't know what you pull out. You just know that if you pull something out, it doesn't work as well. But it's an uphill battle with direct mail, because people say it's expensive, but it's not expensive, because it's got the highest ROI. It just has a large dollar figure. But if you spend 10 grand on a mailer and it brings in 150,000, and you did 15x, do you care that you spent 10 grand? I mean, it's it's just untraining what so many people have been trained to believe and understand, and the shortcuts. And there are no shortcuts. The people who I do business with understand marketing. They understand business. And like, I'm so happy to have the chance every day to be able to personally get on the phone, and have, everybody gets their own account manager, everybody gets their own graphic designer, everybody gets their own, and we all work together as a team, and it's so fulfilling, you
So
know.
let's talk about that for just a little bit, because we're down to the final 30 seconds here. But 30 plus people working for you in
Uh-huh.
Connecticut. You now live in Costa Rica, so obviously you
Yeah.
trust you trust your team because you can't monitor them 24/7 from Costa Rica, right? So you've got good trust there. But
A 30,000 square foot warehouse in Connecticut.
you're servicing primarily what type of accounts?
So we have some franchises. We do some work with Buff City, Terminex, True Greens, but mostly we're with the home service, home improvement. That's our niche.
So
We work with the national franchise.
you're dealing with companies that primarily do business to consumer services.
Right.
I know that because I did some homework too, right? So if you're in the business to consumer services sphere and you're not using direct mail in any capacity, or you're not happy with the results you're getting from your direct mail, I'm telling you, Ira Bowman is giving you some advice here. Get a hold of Andrew's company, The Best Postcards. I put the URL up in the comments earlier. I'm just gonna do it again because I want you guys to come and basically get involved. He's not talking about this isn't a sales pitch, right? This is
Ira, with no commitment, what I just told you I do for people where I take their clients, their past clients, and we do the data, and we append it and do go-to meetings. We'll do with no commitment to anyone who's watching the show. We would be happy to do that for them with zero commitment, zero expectation of purchasing, just so people know more about their business, because knowledge is key.
I'm just putting this up in the links right now. Find out more about direct mail. I'm sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. Well, different things. But I want to make sure this makes it, because a lot of people will watch the show after the live is over. We broadcast live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook simulcast, but we get about 90% of our audience will view it after the live is over. So I just want to make sure they know how to find you. But we build brands. A lot of people think print is dead. A lot of people think that direct mail is a waste of money, but it's not. And you've proven that. We've talked about it for the last 15 minutes or so, but I want people to check this out. Is there anything on this website that you would want me to point out before we end for the day? But free call tracking, targeted custom list, direct custom design pieces. You've talked about that. You've got your
There's no upsells. We don't charge for anything that we do. I'd love to, if I don't know if one of my videos are up there. If you want to check video, on the top up here. Go right to video.
Go to video. And then I'm sure there's lots of videos.
Yeah, hold on. So if you play this one on the left, the first one.
Well, I won't be able to play it, but I'll tell you what, I'll share it so that people can.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think what people should really know, whether they do business with me or not, first of all, direct mail works. And if it doesn't work, you've only done it once, or you're doing it wrong, or you're doing it with the wrong people, and you're just doing a splash and spray. Second of all is, why go into business if you're going to build your brand off of somebody else's algorithm, off of or you're going to spend money and build somebody else's brand like Angie's List or Home Advisor? And you've seen what happened with SEO, and we've seen what happened with Facebook now, where we're aligning our brands with violence and separatism and that just like hate. There's so much hate in the world right now, and I didn't move down to Costa Rica because I'm wealthy and I wanted to come down here. I came down here because when my wife came down for vacation with me, she had no pain for 13 days. Within 3 weeks, I sold my house, and I didn't sell it; it's still there, But we moved to Costa Rica. My son's allergies were gone, and my wife's pain was gone. That's the only reason why I'm here. This isn't like a extravagance, thing.
the
But
thing. Sure.
the direct mail works, and build a brand. And if you're gonna go into business, build something that has a legacy, and build something that people are gonna remember you by. And
Well, I talk about this all the time.
fine.
Say people need to know your business first. So if they don't know who you are, if you're not in their consciousness, you're a stranger. Almost anything you say at that point is
I
irrelevant.
read that last night. I read that last night, those exact words.
Yeah. Yeah. So I tell people all the time, work on getting them to know who you are first. Then establish some authority so they trust you. And then finally you need to have a likability factor. So if you're stoic or grumpy or whatever, then you need to find a face of your business that isn't, so that people will like you. Because if they know you, like you, and trust you, the rest of it becomes pretty simple. I will spend more, and most of us will if we think about it. We'll spend more with people that we trust, right? Because at the end,
100%.
because
You
at
hit
the end
it
of
right on the head.
yeah, at the
Not
end
an
of the
ad.
oh, it froze.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
You
I froze.
would
Yeah, it froze
you
for
would
just a second. Oh, I think we're having a little bit of a connection
you were
issue.
saying that you would spend more if you knew the
Yeah,
people and the likability. Yeah.
100%. Now, direct mail, one of the reasons why it works so well is it can help you reach people that aren't on social media, that aren't on watching TV, that aren't listening to the radio. There's people have different preferences. So, what it helps to do is it helps obviously to increase your visibility, 100%. But it also helps to establish your brand. It's not necessarily the cheapest thing in the world. So when you're getting direct mail from somebody, one of the things that you either you know or you don't know is you're establishing credibility. Like, hey, we're a real company. We're not just
It's your first date. It's your
yeah,
first date. You're putting your first foot forward, and you're introducing yourself to the client before you go down to the sales funnel, because of different levels of the sales funnel. Like, this is you introducing to yourself and the credibility, and um,
all right.
it's
Well, we're gonna wrap this up. I wanna give you an opportunity just in a couple minutes here. For anybody who doesn't know you, certainly watch this video back. There's a whole lot. We spent 45 minutes kind of talking about your backstory, and we didn't even get into it all, but we covered quite a bit. So that in itself is really interesting. But the marketing side of this, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're running an HVAC company or something where you're doing a service-based business and you're dealing directly with the consumer, so not business to business, but direct consumers, and you need to improve your marketing outcome, the results. I would
this
implore
this
you
guy
to
right here in
find,
the bottom, Dave Hurst.
yeah,
He's on your screen. I love him. I mean, I absolutely. Dave Hurst came to me. I fought for him for a client for a year, and he fought me off on every count. He spent six. I hope you don't. He spent $60,000 a month on pay per click, and I watched him going down. And he came to me one day and he said, "Okay, I'm willing to do it." He's now one of our biggest advocates. His business has turned around. He's gotten more efficient, more I mean, I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of the things he did that most people, because people don't want change. People can't make change,
yeah.
but he was against the wall, and like he's one of my guys I can just, when I think about him, I'm saying this is why I do this.
No,
Sorry.
that's amazing. That is 100% amazing. You have a person who wasn't a believer, who got frustrated about the amount of money they were spending and not seeing the results they needed, and then give you a shot, and now he becomes one of your biggest proponents. That happens in my business all the time, right? Like people go in kind of skeptical because they've been burned by digital marketing companies before. They haven't gotten the results that they want because a lot of people talk. Look, it's easy to say stuff. What I love to do is actually let people talk to my clients or show them what they say about me at least, and then let the results speak for
I
themselves.
mean, Ira, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What other medium can you name that 100% of the people have to touch it, hold it, feel it, hit all five senses, whether they throw it in the garbage or they keep it? Name any other media that guaranteed to hit your
Yeah.
prospect.
Yeah. Well,
That's it. That's all you have to say. That's it.
to an old print nerd, bro. Everything about print is I'm passionate about it 100%. Love the ink. Walking into a print shop, I geek out. I get my drones out. I want to fly them through the print shops. But anyways, let's do this. Let's wrap this up with some advice. If you could tell our audience just one tip, like a power tip, so that they can, whether they hire you or not, one thing to consider.
I would say that uh, you gotta be strong enough to make decisions that are not easy, and that and you need to make sure that if you're going to go into a business, that you're able to empower the people. If you're going to be a micromanager, if you're going to be one of the, like, you need to empower your people. You need to trust your people. They need to believe in you because they're your ambassadors, and they're just like you are your brand right now, and I am my brand. Every person at my company is my brand, and when they speak, they're speaking as me, for me, and they're such a great representation, and empowering them to feel that they can do that is a game changer. You
Yeah,
know,
it's great
like,
advice. And any owner out there can benefit from that, right? I've worked for micromanaging owners, and it's awful. It's an awful experience when they don't trust you. So great advice, Andrew. Thank you so much for coming on the show again. For those of you who are joining late, Andrew owns a company called The Best Postcards. They do offer more than just postcard printing. So go to their website. It's thebestpostcards.com. You can learn more about their business. You can learn about their services. If you're not following Andrew on LinkedIn, go ahead and do that now. And I put the URL to his business page on LinkedIn, and you've got over 2,000 followers on that business page. That's a nice size company for LinkedIn. Anyways, a lot of people think that business pages on LinkedIn don't do much, but I would disagree with that. But anyways, I am thankful that you made time to join us on the show. You're open to more people connection requests. If they're watching this, do you want them to send you a connection request?
oh yeah, absolutely. Please, I want to request with anybody who wants to connect, and I don't want to say legitimate requests, but I don't want to be 42,000 agencies trying to sell digital to all my clients. But yeah, I want to be connected. I love helping, sharing, and anybody needs any advice, anything like that, I'm here. And even if you're not working with me, like, because
Yeah.
we offer exclusivity, I'll tell you the right things to do.
Well, I love what the advice that you gave earlier was. You were talking about this 75% of your business comes from existing business, but that avatar development, I think a lot of people don't spend enough time and effort on that, right? Let's look at the profile of the people who are buying from you. What do they do for a living? How much money do they make? Where do they live? Right? Education level. There's so many different factors that could play in. But if you once you make that map, and then you can find others who fit that profile, usually the same marketing methods will work. I mean,
Well, and then after 3 months, after you review it, then you can look and you can say, wow, this carrier route wasn't pulling and this one isn't pulling. Let's pull these out and let's get routes that are pulling,
yeah,
So it's about being transparent and being on top of things. And, those days of transparency are gone. You go to LinkedIn and you look for a digital expert, 10,600,000 of them. How do you find one? Like, literally, how do you find one?
I
It's
get that a
there.
lot.
There are some monsters out there, and there's some great people out there, and it's a necessary layer, but you got to go through a lot of pain.
But it's some simple due diligence, folks. This is some great advice from Andrew. I'm gonna expound on this just a second before we cut out. If you if you're just going on what they say and what their website says, you're not going far enough. That next level will take you everywhere you want to be, which is look at their clients. Look at what the clients are saying. It's not so much about what they say about themselves, because anybody can say anything they want. But what are other people saying about them? You talk about Google reviews. If somebody's got a review of 3, you're not going to do business with them. Smart, right? So look at these rating systems. It'll help you. I actually, a client introduced me to a website called clutch.com. And Clutch is great because it not only gives a quick review, but it lets them do an in-depth review of the service they received and what they liked best about it. It talks about pricing, talks about delivery, talks about working with the owner, and then it allows you to say a little bit about if they were to approve anything, this is where they could approve. And anyways, if you guys haven't heard of Clutch yet, check it out. But Andrew, we're going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining.
And please have me back. And I enjoyed being here, and I'd love to know a lot more about your story. So, like, even on a side note, if we can hook up and talk, I'd love that.
Yeah, you got it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to say goodbye to Andrew right now. And this is the first show of season 2. Join me next week. I forget who's coming. I'll post it. I have a full deck, a full slate coming. So every Monday starts at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I forgot where I was at. 2 p.m. Eastern. What do we do on Marketing Mondays? We talk about marketing from every different perspective. Today, we're spent a lot of time talking about direct mail. There's a lot of different components to marketing. So what's the goal of the show is that if you don't have a huge marketing budget, you can watch the show week in and week out and hear from a whole bunch of different experts and pick and choose the parts that you can implement to making your own marketing strategy better. That's the goal of the show. Anyways, thank you for joining. My name is Ira Bowman. I'll see you next time on Marketing Mondays.